Welcome back to the SaaS Evolve podcast, the show where we talk about the evolution of software as a service, where it's going, what's changing right now, and what all of it means for founders, operators, leaders, and professionals trying to keep up with an industry that refuses to sit still for 5 seconds. So, if you're going to be getting into honest conversations about SaaS, AI, product strategy, market shifts, and the future of software, you're in the right spot. In today's episode, we'll be talking about why SaaS teams are being rebuilt in real time. Because something bigger than a normal reorg is happening right now. And this is just not another cycle where companies trim budgets, rename departments, and pretend putting transformation on a slide means they've reinvented themselves. What we're seeing right now is deeper than that. SaaS companies are rethinking who they hire, what roles matter, how much headcount they actually need, and what a high performing team even looks like in the age of AI. And the reason this matters is simple. When the team changes, the company changes. Product changes, go to market changes, margins change, speed changes, culture changes, and expectations change. So, this episode is really about one big question. Why are SaaS teams being rebuilt right now? And what does the new version of a modern software company actually look like? Now, for a long time, the SaaS model encouraged growth through specialization. As companies scaled, they added layers: more SDRs, more BDRs, more customer success managers, more product managers, more recruiting staff, more middle management, more operations, more enablement, more analysts, more coordinators, more functions around the functions. That made sense in an era of cheap capital, aggressive growth targets, and software budgets that kept expanding. If growth was the game, then adding people felt like the answer to almost everything. But the version of SaaS is under pressure now from multiple directions at once. First, the financial environment changed. Teams got leaner after the overhiring years. Signalfire's 2025 talent report points out that entry-level hiring in tech has basically collapsed, with big tech new grad hiring down more than 50% from pre-pandemic levels, and new startup grad hiring down 30%. It also notes that Series A tech startups are about 20% smaller than they were back in 2020. Further than that, AI is changing the economics of work itself. LinkedIn says around 70% of the skills used in most jobs are expected to change by 2030, with AI acting as a major catalyst. That is a massive number. That's not just a few new tools. That's a rewrite of what competence really looks like. Further than that, companies are now seeing enough real AI productivity gains that they're no longer treating this like a side experiment. They're restructuring around it. Microsoft said outright in 2025 that AI is reshaping not just the products companies build and the business models they run, but also how they are structured and how they work together every day. It also created a new engineering organization, Core AI, combining major technical groups to build its AI stack and agent infrastructure faster. That's the point. This is not just AI is helping employees. This is AI is changing the shape of the org chart. One of the clearest signs of the shift is that AI is no longer being treated as a feature team off in the corner. It's becoming the center of gravity. In the old model, you had product teams shipping software features, support teams handling issues, sales teams pushing demos, and operations teams trying to keep the machine from shaking itself apart. In the new model, companies are asking a much tougher question. If AI could eliminate or compress part of the workflow, why is the team still built around the old workflow? That question is now making its way through every function. In engineering, the goal is no longer just shipping features. It's shipping features while using AI to compress prototyping, coding, quality assurance, refactoring, and documentation. Menlo Ventures estimates that enterprise spending on generative AI hit $37 billion in 2025, up from $11.5 billion in 2024, with the application layer taking the biggest share. Within departmental AI, coding alone accounted for $4 billion in spending. And Menlo says teams are reporting 15% plus velocity gains from AI tools across the software development lifecycle. In recruiting, LinkedIn says 37% of organizations are now actively integrating or experimenting with generative AI in hiring, up from 27% a year earlier. Among teams using it, the average time saved is about 20% of the work week, basically 1 day per week. And the recruiting role itself is shifting upward, away from the repetitive tasks and towards judgment, relationship building, and strategic advising. Now, in product and operations, the logic is similar. Teams are being told to automate first, then justify headcount second. That's showing up explicitly in company behavior, not just through thought leadership sludge on LinkedIn. Reuters reported that Duolingo adopted an AI-first approach and used generative AI to launch 148 new language courses in under a year, compared with 12 years to create its first 100 courses, while also replacing many contract workers with AI to streamline operations. That is not a marginal improvement. That's a completely different production model. And whether people love that or hate it, it tells you exactly where this is heading. Teams are being redesigned around throughput per person, not just total headcount. Here's the mistake I think a lot of people make when they look at this moment. They think the story is just layoffs. It isn't. Layoffs are a part of it, but the deeper story is recomposition. SaaS teams are being rebuilt in at least 4 layers. So let's talk about layer 1. That's fewer pure coordination roles. A lot of roles existed because work was fragmented. One person gathered inputs, another updated documents, another moved things between systems, and another chased status, another summarized calls, another built internal decks no one wanted, but everyone pretended were mission critical. AI is very good at reducing that kind of labor. That does not mean that every coordinator, analyst, recruiter, product manager, or ops person disappears. It means the people in those roles now need to operate at a higher level of judgment and business leverage because the lower level mechanics can increasingly be handled by tools. LinkedIn's recruiting research makes exactly this point. AI is automating routine work while increasing the value of the recruiter as a strategic advisor. The second layer is more premium on a technical leverage. As teams get leaner, each technical hire has to carry more weight. Signifier's report that I referenced earlier in this podcast says that companies are prioritizing roles that deliver higher leverage technical output, while non-technical functions like recruiting, products, and sales have been shrinking. It also found that elite AI labs are fiercely competing for top technical talent, with Anthropic showing 80% 2-year retention. DeepMind is at 78% and OpenAI at 67%. That matters because it shows the market is splitting in two. On one side, compression of broad middle layers. On the other hand, intense competition for the people who can build, orchestrate, and deploy new systems. The third layer of that, every team is being asked to prove its ROI faster. The old SaaS company could tolerate more organizational drag because growth covered a lot of sins. Today, every function is under more pressure to show leverage. That's why you're seeing companies talk less about headcount growth and more about productivity, output, and agentic work. Salesforce said in its latest results that Agentforce ARR reached $800 million, up 169% year over year, with 29,000 deals closed, and said it had converted nearly 20 trillion tokens into more than 2.4 billion agentic work units. Now, whether every AI company's work unit metric will age gracefully is another question. Corporate measurement has always had a talent for sounding profound while counting smoke. But the directional point is real. Software companies are trying to quantify labor substitution and labor augmentation. And once that starts happening, org design follows. The fourth layer is buy versus build is changing the org itself. Menlo found that 2025, 76% of AI use cases were purchased rather than built internally, up from a near split the year before. It also found that 47% of AI deals go to production compared with 25% for traditional SaaS. That means companies do not need giant internal moonshot teams for every AI initiative. They can buy more capability off the shelf, integrate it, and concentrate their own headcount on differentiation. That changes hiring plans, team composition, and even what product strategy means. In plain English, fewer teams will be built to create everything from scratch. More teams will be built to assemble, govern, customize, and operationalize fast moving AI systems. So let's bring this down from theory into reality. Klarna became one of the loudest examples early on. Reuters reported that its AI assistant was doing the work equivalent of 700 employees, that the company had reduced headcount from about 5,000 to 3,800, mostly through attrition, and the average revenue per employee rose 73%, from 4 million to 7 million Swedish crowns. The CEO also said that the company would continue not recruiting anything other than engineers for a significant period. That's a huge tell. Not we're hiring everywhere, not we're building balanced teams across all functions. It's we'll keep shrinking and prioritize engineers. Then there's Atlassian, which as of March 11th, 2026, announced it would cut roughly 10% of its workforce. That's about 1,600 employees to push harder into AI and enterprise sales. Reuters reported that CEO Mike Cannon-Brookes said it would be disingenuous to pretend AI doesn't change the mix of skills needed or the number of roles required in certain areas. Again, that's a story in one sentence. The number of roles required in certain areas is changing, not someday, right now. Microsoft is doing it from the platform side by merging major technical groups into core AI and openly saying that AI agents will change every SaaS application category. Salesforce is doing it by pushing aggressively into agentic workflows and tying that to how enterprise work gets done. Duolingo is doing it by using AI to dramatically accelerate content creation and reshape labor inputs. Different companies, different categories, same pattern. Leaner teams, more AI leverage, more concentration of talent around technical and strategic work. So what actually happens to the SaaS team from here? So here's my view. The teams that get smaller are the ones built around routine coordination, repetitive production, internal translation work, and manual processing that AI can now encompass. The teams that get bigger or at least more valuable are the ones closest to product architecture, model and workflow orchestration, data quality and governance, customer trust and implementation, complex enterprise selling, change management, and judgment-heavy leadership. That last one matters more than people think because AI does not just remove work, it also creates organizational chaos if leadership is weak. So when companies say they want to become AI first, that sounds exciting for about 6 minutes. Then reality shows up. Systems conflict, teams duplicate tools, security gets nervous, legal gets involved, and employees don't know what's allowed. Managers don't know how to measure output. Half the company experiments, the other half stalls, and everyone claims they're driving transformation. That's why the rebuild is not just technical, it's managerial. The best SaaS leaders over the next few years are not going to be the ones who simply buy the most AI tools. They're going to be the ones who can redesign work clearly enough that people know what gets automated, what gets elevated, what gets cut, what gets protected, and what excellence now looks like. That's a much harder job than approving a pilot budget and posting a few celebratory screenshots in Slack. This is the part that some people won't love, but it's probably true. The next generation SaaS company is likely to be smaller in total headcount, flatter in structure, and more uneven in value distribution. But what do I mean by uneven? Well, a smaller number of highly capable people will drive a much larger share of the output. One stronger engineer with the right AI stack may do the work that once required several people. One strong operator may run systems that used to require layers of analysts and coordinators. And one great CSM may use AI to cover far more surface area than before. One product marketer may also generate, test, tailor, and ship assets at a pace that once required a broader content machine. That doesn't mean teams become superhuman. It means leverage goes up. And when leverage goes up, average performance matters less than exceptional performance. That has a major implication on hiring. It means companies may hire fewer juniors. Signifier's data already points in that direction. It means they may over-index on experienced builders who can operate autonomously. It means AI fluency becomes table stakes across functions, not a specialty. It means the gap between high leverage employees and low leverage employees could widen materially. And it also means that a lot of professionals in SaaS are about to discover that their job is not disappearing exactly, but their old version of the job is. That's a very different thing, and it's much more common. One of the lazier takes in the market right now is that this is all just a cost story. It's not. Cost matters, obviously. But Challenger reported recently that AI was cited in 54,000 announced layoff plans in 2025 and 12,000 more the opening part of 2026. But speed is just as important. Companies are rebuilding teams because they think slower orgs will lose. Menlo's data now shows AI applications are scaling at extraordinary speed, with enterprises favoring purchase solutions over internal builds and adopting them quickly into production. Salesforce is framing this as a real work being done by agents. Microsoft is framing it as a platform shift that affects every SaaS category. And when platform shift happens, the biggest risk is not usually we spent too much. The biggest risk is we moved too slowly and the market moved around us. That fear is why SaaS teams are being rebuilt in real time, because leaders increasingly believe that waiting for the org to evolve gradually is more dangerous than ripping the bandage off and redesigning it now. Here's a few things to consider before we close the episode. First, stop thinking of AI as a feature discussion only. It's an org design discussion. If AI changes the workflow, it changes the team. Second, the safest roles are not the ones farthest from AI. They're the ones that become more powerful because of AI. And that's the difference. Third, companies need to be careful not to confuse efficiency with strategy. You can cut headcount and still lose. The winners will be the ones that use smaller teams to move faster, build better products, serve customers more effectively, and create clearer differentiation. Fourth, leaders need to get brutally honest about what their organization is actually optimized for. Is it optimized for output, or is it optimized for internal process theater? Because AI is going to expose that difference very quickly. And fifth, for individuals, the bar is changing. The market wants people who can use AI tools, think clearly, move across functions, make sound decisions, and create leverage, not just complete tasks. That is the new game. So, why are SaaS teams being built in real time? Because the old model was built for a world where growth absorbed inefficiency, specialization expanded naturally, and software mostly acted as a tool people worked inside. The new world is different. AI is pushing software toward action, not just workflow. It is compressing routine labor. It's rewarding technical leverage. It's changing what companies buy, what they build, who they hire, and how much org complexity they can justify. And that means SaaS teams are not just being optimized, they're being redefined. That's the real story. And honestly, we're still early. A lot of companies are only halfway through this shift. Some are moving too fast, some are moving too slowly, and some are pretending a chatbot bolted onto a dashboard counts as transformation. Corporate self-deception remains one of the most renewable resources on earth, but the broader direction is clear. The SaaS team of the future will likely be leaner, more AI native, more cross-functional, more technically leveraged, and much less tolerant of work that exists only because the old system required it. That's not a minor adjustment, that's a rebuild. So thanks for listening to the SaaS Evolve podcast. If you're enjoying the shows and the content we have here on the channels, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a weekly episode or the other videos that we're publishing on this channel. If you got a take on this one, we'd love to hear your comments. The question I want to ask you is, are SaaS teams actually getting smarter and more efficient, or are companies using AI as a cover to cut deeper than they should? I'll see you in the next episode.